So, I hope you all don't mind if I don't stand on the stage. I want to be closer to you. If you will open your booklets to the beginning, I believe this will help guide us in our first activity. Page 9. Part of what we want to do this morning is to, one, talk about mission and vision. And in figuring out what our mission is, we'll be assessing what our vision is, and we'll get into the details of that, what our skills are, and then how do we bring together our skills and our vision to be able to create something, to make something real, to do the work that it is that we want to do. And so if I will just very briefly share with you my vision and share a little bit of my story to give some context for what we want to do over the course of the next hour. I was born in the UK to parents who worked for the US government and lived only in the UK a short time. But being born in the UK as an African American helped form my perspective when I moved back to the States and grew up there. And upon entering university, I realized how much division there was within institutions, how much racism not just affected the culture of our society, but affected power. And power was very important to me. And when I say power, I mean the power of individual people to be able to have the access and the right to create the lives for themselves that they want, to create the families that they want, to live in the places they want. And that is what I thought the American dream was about. I thought the American dream was about having the freedom to live where you wanted, to say what you wanted, but it was bigger than that. It was about being able to use every resource that the American society offered to be able to create the reality that anyone could dream. And I realized that wasn't what we had. We talked very eloquently about it, but we didn't always provide it. And so my vision became creating a society in the United States where people of color, where people of any religion, where young people all had the agency to be able to create the futures that they wanted to. And then beginning to work with other people that wanted to do the same thing. And that was my vision. And began to work with others that looked like me and some that didn't look like me. Some that practiced the faith that I practiced and those that had no faith. Those that were the same sexual orientation of mine and those that were others, to be able to start creating a greater and better and more inclusive society in the United States. I'm very interested in you all's vision for what an inclusive Greece looks like. And each of your visions of what an inclusive Greece looks like may be different. But it's incredibly important for us before we move forward to know what our vision of an inclusive Greece looks like. Because if we're not sure, if we're not clear, if we don't know who that includes, and frankly who it doesn't, then we're going to have a very difficult time over the rest of the day utilizing the tools and the skills to work by ourselves or collectively to be able to create a more inclusive and hopefully a more progressive. And by progressive, I mean Greece being in the place where it can progress to the place of excellence versus a place of mediocrity, not just from an economic standpoint, but from a social standpoint. I think too often we judge the success of societies based on how strong our economy is, but not how strong our communities are. And if we will be honest, there are countries around the world whose economies are strong, but their communities are weak because they disenfranchise, they discriminate against, they alienate, and then oftentimes, in the worst of times, they brutalize. And so when I want you all to think right now about your vision for an inclusive Greece, and spend a little bit of time writing down what that inclusive Greece looks like. What would you like to see Greece look like in the next 20 years? For those of you that have children, what kind of Greece do you want your children to be able to experience that in some cases you haven't been able to experience? If you're able to really think out of the box, what kind of Greece would you like your children's children to have? Because leadership and real leadership has the ability to create a reality for generations unborn, and at least begin to work towards the reality work towards a reality for generations unborn. And so spend a little bit of time thinking about what an inclusive Greece looks like to you. Who is a part of that inclusive Greece? How are those people treated? How does the government interact with them? Where do people live within this society? What is the kind of inclusive Greece you would like to work towards? And then I'd like for you to spend a little bit of time writing down in 2 or 3 sentences, what does that look like? And I hope that some of you will be willing to share that once you've completed writing that down. Is there any confusion? Any questions? You all are scaring me because you're so quiet.
And this is an intergenerational exercise, so
Yes.
nobody's excluded from writing their vision down.
And if you have any questions, please. But I'd like to give you perhaps 5 minutes to think about that, write that down, and then would love to have some volunteers that are willing to share. In the States, and oftentimes there's such a difference between the work that we do in the States and the work that we do in Europe, the nuances of the society and how we as a country have dealt with inclusion. Because we're such a young country, because we are a country that has been rooted in, so much of the foundation of the United States has been about the lack of inclusion. And so much of our society has been about fighting to create that inclusion. There have been so many figures, some domestic and some who have international appeal in the States. And so when I talk about vision, I think the American whose vision is probably most well known to the world would be that of Martin Luther King Jr. And Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, Martin Luther King Jr.'s thoughts about inclusion, about diversity, about changing society and government, I think are well known all over the world. But one of the things that Martin Luther King said that was, I think, simplistically profound, is that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when he said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, he really put all of us on notice to say that if we are not willing to address injustice where we are, it threatens justice everywhere else. And so when we're not willing to address inclusion where we are, it threatens the inclusion that takes place around us. So I'm very interested in seeing what your visions are, hearing what your visions are. Is there anyone that would like to volunteer to share with the group first? Before I call on someone to share with the group first. Anyone? No one courageous? No one excited?
I think you have to choose a volunteer.
It seems that's going to be the case. Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yes, you. Because you looked at me first. Everyone else was smart enough to look away. So if you could stand for me, tell us your name, and share with us your vision.
So, hi everyone, my name is Natalia, and I'm not Greek, I'm Russian, so I have so much to say because I want to see many differences in Greece. For example, the first thing I would like to change or to see is the way of thinking maybe, because it will help to change many issues. For Greek people, I mean, what else? And of course the strong democracy, because I believe in democracy, and I think if the government and people will work together, it will bring many different changes in society, and I hope it will bring positive changes. So what else? And I think that it's very important for us to understand our issues, our resources, as you said, and identify them and use them in a rational and right way, so it will rebuild the society. Yeah, what else? And be more open to other cultures, because we can learn more from them, because there are different cultures, different laws, different situations. So it will help us to improve ourselves and general the society. And I think that also the people shouldn't underestimate the young people, because we're, let's say, we're future, because we build our society. We will make changes. So, I think enough.
So before you sit down, and thank you so much, give her a round of applause. So when we change our thinking, when we have a stronger democracy, when we embrace others, when we stop underestimating young people, how does that make society look in your mind? What does society look like now versus, what does society look like then, I'm sorry, different than it does now?
I think that nowadays the society is totally separated. They like castes like in India, for example, and if we made all those changes, I think that it would bring us all together. It wouldn't be so less angry. It would be less stressful. I think many people will be more self-confident. Will have support from other people, because we will say, "You can do it. I believe in you." And
That's perfect. Thank you very much. And I think that's important, because a lot of times we talk about what we want to do. We talk about what others should do, but we don't always talk about what we believe the change, that the real impact will be as a result of doing those things. And so I'm hoping that when you share your visions, you're not just talking about what you want to do or what you think others should do. You're talking about what the society should transform into. That's what real vision is about. What does the society transform into? What does it begin to look like? How does it begin to feel? And if you're really visionary, what does it begin to look like for Jews? What does it begin to look like for those that are gay? What does it begin to look like for those that are Muslim? What does it begin to look like for those that are migrants? And that begins to be challenging for some of us. So, is there someone else? Yes. Please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tula Mandi, and I'm a sociologist of health, and I work at the Ministry of Health in Greek government. So I think that I would like to see my country to show respect for the people that they live in, to assess and take into account their needs, and protect their civil rights in the future. So as I think in this way, the country should be more inclusive in general, as is not now at the moment.
Yes, thank you.
Because there are different groups, social groups, that most of them are vulnerable. At the moment, their needs are not taken into serious account.
And so with that, part of your vision is to see those vulnerable groups become stronger within the country,
And have a voice.
which will add to making a stronger democracy.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Any men? Yes.
I would like, my name is Joseph Pickens. Good morning. I would like to add on this that Greece needs a really important thing in a society is the health system. And I would like to add on what you said, because you represent this part of country, which is really important. And right now there's not a good system, a good social health system. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more. From this table right here.
No.
Please, one of the three of you, you all decide.
No, you speak.
Please,
No, I don't have to say nothing.
you have no vision.
No, not now.
I find that difficult to believe,
Later.
so I'll come back to you
Okay.
when we start talking about
Okay.
skills.
If anybody feels a little bit, if you feel a little bit embarrassed on this part to express yourself in English, let's have someone
No, no
step
problem.
up, because I know I know at least one person who feels
I need
like it might be a
I
little
need
hard.
it,
He would like a translator to express his vision,
George, can you do that for him?
just to help him,
Please,
just so he can
in
express
Greek
his
and-
vision.
We can translate his vision? Okay. Keep going, Rashid. If you want to speak in Greek.
Αν είναι εύκολο να γίνεται η μετάφραση από
Ναι, ναι, θα σου κάνει λίγο. Ναι, θα σου κάνω καλά.
Γιατί δεν έχουμε μπει στο κλίμα ακόμα. Τώρα η ερώτηση τι είναι, κάποιος να μου μεταφράσει.
Okay, we need the question again. Sorry, what is the question, because you didn't understand the English one?
The question is about your vision for Greece, an inclusive Greece. What does an inclusive Greece look like to you?
Το όραμά σου είναι για την Ελλάδα και τι βλέπεις ότι...
Θα πρέπει να αλλάξει το μέλλον.
Ναι.
Εγώ προσωπικά θέλω να πω ότι πολλά πρέπει να αλλάξουν.
Λίγα θα λέτε και να μπορέσω να μεταφράσω.
Ναι, ναι.
Would you like to do it?
He would like to say that there are a lot of things to be done.
Κυρίως σε σχέση με την δημοκρατία. Εγώ θα έλεγα ότι η δημοκρατία στην Ελλάδα είναι ελλειπής.
Mainly
Σε
about
πολλά
the
επίπεδα.
political system, the democracy.
Και οι διακρίσεις γίνονται κατά κύριο λόγο είτε για εθνικός λόγος, είτε για έθρομος λόγος, είτε για...
And a lot of discrimination about gender.
Δηλαδή, εγώ θα έλεγα ότι έναν αλλοδαπό θα διαχειριστεί με κάπως τελείως διαφορετικό από έναν πολίτη σε σχέση του με τη διοίκηση και αυτά.
He feels that an immigrant will be treated much differently than someone who is a citizen or in the country.
Εγώ θα έλεγα κάτι άλλο τώρα. Η πολιτική που γενικά γίνεται για τους μετανάστες, για τους αλλοδαπούς, είναι αποσπασματική. Δεν γίνεται μια πολιτική, δηλαδή βασίζεται στους νόμους, κανόνες, δηλαδή διατηρούνται και τα κανόνα σε κάθε άτομο.
He's talking about the immigration, that it doesn't follow the laws or regulations that it should.
Αυτά θα μείνω μέχρι.
And
I see.
I'd like to know what he thinks it should do.
Τι πρέπει να κάνει. Τι πρέπει να κάνει δηλαδή.
Τι νομίζεις
εσύ ότι πρέπει να γίνει η αλλαγή όσο
Η αλλαγή που πρώτα πρέπει να γίνει, ότι η παρουσία των μεταναστών στην Ελλάδα είναι πλέον δεδομένη, δηλαδή είναι πραγματικότητα.
Okay, first of all, he says that it's a reality that we have immigrants coming to Greece or living in Greece.
Αυτό προϋποθέτει ότι οι αλλοδαποί που είναι νόμιμοι εδώ και χρόνια, που έχουν ενσωματωθεί, πρέπει αυτοί να ενσωματώνονται και στην ελληνική κοινωνία.
Okay, well, he said that the immigrants, the legal immigrants that are here, should be assimilated into society.
Δηλαδή πρέπει να βλέπουμε αλλοδαπούς, αξιόπιστους αλλοδαπούς, επιστήμονες, σπουδασμένοι να βρίσκονται σε διάφορες υπηρεσίες, στα υπουργεία, στις σχολές.
He says that immigrants, especially the well-educated ones, should be found in a variety of positions in ministries and in other places as well.
We want to mention that Rashid is a lawyer now. He's working as a lawyer
Yes. Thank you.
from Syria, Kurdish from Syria.
Good morning everybody, I'm George Giaros. Θέλω να συνεχίσω κάτι στο το
Okay. Αρκεί να μην είναι πολύ δύσκολα τα
Ναι,
ελληνικά.
όχι. Ουσιαστική αλλαγή
Okay. He says a
Όσον αφορά
substantial change
τους αδελφούς.
as far as immigrants are concerned.
Γιατί το πρόβλημα είναι ότι το σύστημα του ελληνικό
The problem is the Greek
δεν
system.
μπορεί να τους απορροφήσει,
The Greek system cannot absorb them, cannot absorb the immigrants,
ώστε να μπορέσουν και αυτοί σιγά σιγά να ενταχθούν στην κοινωνία μας.
so that they can be assimilated in society.
Έχουμε στην Ελλάδα έχουμε μείνει λίγο πίσω όσον αφορά το ότι για να μπει κάποιος στο δημόσιο να μπορέσει να λειτουργήσει.
We're a bit behind,
Πρέπει
as
να είναι Έλληνα.
we're a bit behind as far as policy is concerned, because in order for somebody to be hired in the public sector, he has to be Greek.
Λάθος.
That's wrong.
Λάθος. Γιατί πολλοί αδαποί μπορούν να μας βοηθήσουν με τις ιδέες τους, με τις ικανότητές τους.
He feels this is wrong because he feels that many immigrants can help us with their ideas.
Θέλουμε δηλαδή μια Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση γενική, όχι
want
μια
a
Ελλάδα στην Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση.
We want a general European community.
Thank you.
Τι κάνετε, It's not needed, she says. Okay.
I'll come back to you.
Μας πέταξε.
Let me ask this. How many in the room believe that immigration policy and assimilation practice in the country is one of the largest problems that you have?
Πόσοι στο δωμάτιο νιώθουν ότι υπάρχει πρόβλημα με μεταναστευτικό και η πολιτική που υπάρχει με τους μετανάστες εδώ?
Okay. Because through the day, I want to be able to identify what some major themes are, themes that we're agreeing with throughout the room, because those are things that we can work collectively to do. As we begin to shift a little, and I appreciate those of you that have shared your vision, what I'm interested in you beginning to think about now is what are the skills and challenges that you individually have. And by skills, I mean, what do you do well? What do you have a great deal of knowledge in? What do you operate proficiently doing? What do you enjoy doing that can help make that vision a reality? Secondly, go ahead.
Sorry,
No, yes, please.
Απλώς το επόμενο ερώτημα είναι τι δεξιότητες έχετε εσείς, τι καλές δεξιότητες έχετε που μπορείτε να αντιμετωπίσετε κάποια αυτά τα προβλήματα που συζητάμε τώρα.
Secondly, what do you find difficult? What information could you have? What areas would you like to be trained in that you think are weaker areas that if you did it well, could again help you bring about that vision?
Λέει ότι το δεύτερο ερώτημα είναι σε τι νομίζετε μπορείτε να εκπαιδευτείτε για να έχετε την ικανότητα να αντιμετωπίσετε κάποια από αυτά τα προβλήματα. Σε τι χρειαζόσαστε περισσότερη εκπαίδευση, περισσότερες πληροφορίες για να βελτιώσετε, να μπορέσετε να κάνετε κάτι για το πρόβλημα.
I'll give you an example. In the United States, I run a communications firm. And that communications firm, the work that I do, focuses on strategy and messaging. And so I help people identify the entire picture. How can they put their organization? How can we identify candidates? How can we use resources to create change? And then how can we develop messages, talking points to shift public opinion, to get people involved in movements, and to get people to shift how they engage in the political process.
Στην Αμερική έχει μια εταιρεία που διδάσκει επικοινωνία. Και αυτό που κάνει είναι εκπαιδεύει τα άτομα που πάνε εκεί για να μπορέσουν να έχουν την ικανότητα να αντιμετωπίσουν τα προβλήματα και να βρίσκουν λύσεις.
I also am an entrepreneur and work with entrepreneurs because in the United States, in particular, the small business and middle-sized business owner is incredibly important in utilizing resources, in mobilizing people, and in creating opportunity.
Στην Αμερική ο μικροεπιχειρηματίας και ο μεσαίος επιχειρηματίας είναι πολύ σημαντικός το να χρησιμοποιεί τις πηγές που έχει, using resources and
Money.
Okay. Και το χρήμα που υπάρχει.
So the things that I do well in my work to create the vision that I want is communicating with the base, training people to be able to be a part of the process, creating institutions where they don't exist, and in utilizing media to be able to talk to the people.
Okay, I have a problem with my short-term memory. I am the
Okay.
editor, so we have to chop it up a little more. Sorry, can we start?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the skills that I have are communicating with the people,
Okay, οι δεξιότητες που έχει ο κύριος είναι να επικοινωνεί με τους ανθρώπους,
building organizations and institutions,
φτιάχνοντας οργανισμούς και ιδρύματα,
using media,
χρησιμοποιώντας τα μέσα της ενημέρωσης
and raising money.
και να βρίσκει χρηματοδότηση.
What I don't do well,
Αυτό που δεν κάνει καλά,
I don't like nor do I do well on the operations.
okay, δεν του αρέσει ο operations, πώς να το πω, λειτουργίες, lean management.
Yes.
Όχι, τα διοικητικά δεν του αρέσουν. Τα διοικητικά.
With doing, I'm more vision oriented than detail oriented.
Απλώς είναι περισσότερο στο όραμα, να κάνει οράματα, παρά να κοιτάζει τις λεπτομέρειες.
And I enjoy working with very small groups
Και τον ευχαριστεί να δουλεύει με μικρά group,
and not necessarily large ones.
όχι απαραίτητος μεγάλα.
And so I'm able to look at just those weaknesses and be able to pull people into my team that know how to do those things that I don't know how to do.
Οπότε βλέπει τις αδυναμίες που έχει και αυτό που κάνει είναι φέρνει κόσμο στην ομάδα του που μπορούν να κάνουν αυτά που δεν μπορεί ο ίδιος.
So I would like you all to think about what are the things you do very well,
Θέλει να σκεφτείτε τι κάνετε, να σκεφτείτε τι ικανότητες έχετε, τι κάνετε πολύ καλά,
what are the things you enjoy doing,
τι σας αρέσει να κάνετε,
what are the things you don't do well,
αυτά που δεν κάνετε καλά
and what are the things you don't like doing.
και αυτά που δεν σας αρέσουν να κάνετε.
And then we'll talk about those as you've written them down in the process of developing this vision